What's up, everybody? Winnie here, and this is Winnie's Wednesday, where I share nuggets of my wisdom with you because I love you, I love me, I love us, and I love God. So, y'all, by request, I will be talking about relationships again tonight, and more specifically, I'm going to be talking about whether or not it's appropriate for spouses to have friends of the opposite sex. Okay, I do want to make this side note in there for y'all. This relationship conversation, this particular conversation, is going to be focused on cis hetero couples, okay? Because that's where I got my experience, so that's what I can address. For the rest of y'all, I'm not sure how that might go. But let's go ahead and dive right into this content for today. Let's go ahead and dive right into this message for today. Oh, wait, before we dive in, I do want to say something, y'all. So I'm going to be speaking on relationships at an event next month in February. And next to my name in the flyer, they put relationship expert, and I was like, oh, me. Yes, me, right? That's me. Okay, anyways, enough of my little bubble head self. But is it okay for your spouse to have a friend of the opposite sex? I want to tell y'all, full disclosure, I'm going to address this question natural. I don't have no notes or anything because I want to speak to you as if you were asking me the question right here, right now. No notes, no time for bullets and all of that extra stuff at this very moment. Just a real conversation with Winnie on Winnie's opinions about this topic. So, what do I think about this? I think that it is absolutely okay for couples, married couples, couples in general, to have friends of the opposite sex. I don't think there's any problem in having a friend of the opposite sex, like in and of itself, like if it's literally just a friend, like genuinely just a friend. I think the issue arises when we have secret friends and when we have friends who are kind of just like on reserve. They're like people who, they're our friend, but really they're like our back burner type of people. Like, if anything happens with my main over here, then I'm coming at you. But for now, we're gonna be friends because I'm gonna respect what we have while it's good. You know, there's different types of friendship in today's society, so we have to be careful with what these friends look like. Okay, we want to make sure that if we have friends of the opposite sex, that these are literally just friends, and we want to make sure that they don't violate any of our partner or our spouse's boundaries. So if we know our partner, our spouse doesn't want us to be emotionally giving ourselves to anyone else or physically giving ourselves to anyone else, you know, or having certain conversations with other people, then we need to make sure that the friends who are of the opposite sex that we have, and friends in general, we need to make sure that they fit within the confines of the boundaries that our partners have. Because the last thing we want to do is something behind our partner's back that is going to hurt them, that's going to make them feel like they can't trust you, like you're doing something, you know, crazy that you shouldn't be doing. Another thing that I think about when I think about like having friends of the opposite sex is, do you have them like just because you guys naturally created a friendship, or are you just trying to, you know, are you trying to have friends of the opposite sex, or do you have friends of the opposite sex simply because your partner has friends of the opposite sex? Now, this might sound crazy, y'all, but believe it or not, some people deliberately seek out friendship from people of the opposite sex simply because their, you know, partner or spouse has a friend of the opposite sex. And I think that is a very wrong reason to try and have a friend of the opposite sex, because then it gets dangerous, right? Because now there's an act of desperation. Then there's this act that, like, the friendship that you're trying to create, it's not because you are literally naturally organically making a friend, but it's because you're sourcing out somebody of the opposite sex just to kind of one up or get equal with your partner. I think in this case, when people do this, they just simply need to sit down and have a conversation about how they're not comfortable with their partner's friends of the opposite sex. Because genuinely, that's what it boils down to. Like, I'm not comfortable that you have friends of the opposite sex. I can't prove that you're doing anything inappropriate with your friend of the opposite sex. So to remedy this, I'm just gonna go find me some friends of the opposite sex. No, just go have a conversation with your partner, your spouse, and say, hey, I'm not comfortable with the fact that you have a partner of the opposite sex, you know? And then they'll be able to say, oh, well, like, I didn't know that. You know, is there anything that I can do to ensure that you have comfort in my relationships with my friends of the opposite sex? You know, maybe they can introduce you to the people and y'all can like build that relationship. Maybe they can share with you what they would talk about, you know? And if we find that it isn't healthy, if you find that it isn't healthy after conversation, then they can break off from that relationship. But going out and deliberately looking for a friend of the opposite sex, it gets dangerous because now you're going to be looking for characteristics that you probably need to be looking for in your spouse. Okay, and that gets real ugly real fast. So I wouldn't suggest that. But in general, if there is no ulterior motive, if you're not just trying to have a back burner person, if the nature of your relationship respects and doesn't overstep the boundaries that your partner has. And if you don't know what those boundaries are, ask your partner. Say, hey, like, is it okay if I have a friend of the opposite sex whom I talk about this and do that with? You know, if you don't know, ask them. But you gotta make sure that, like, the nature of your friendship does not violate the boundaries that your person has at all. Because once you start violating those boundaries, that's when things get real funky. That's when trust is lost. That's when drama is started. That's when like irreconcilable things start to jump into the way, okay? Always have a conversation. It's okay to have friends of the opposite sex. It is okay if they are genuine friends. Always have a conversation with your partner or your spouse about like what kind of friendship you have. Make sure that they're comfortable with this, you know? Invite everybody into a sphere together. Make sure that you don't have any sexual feelings or any desire for that person. Make sure you're not looking at that person with lusty eyes and you just want to have them around just in case, you know? So yeah, just keep your stuff together. Like, it's good. It's all right. Like, we all have friends of the opposite sex naturally from the time that we were like little kids and just starting to create friendships until the time we die. But what matters most when having friends of the opposite sex, when we are married, when we are in committed relationships, what matters the most is that we communicate with our partner about who the person is in our life, the role they play in our life, and you know what our partners are comfortable with. And if we find out in the early stages that our partners are not comfortable with certain types of friends, then we either need to let go of that friend or we need to find a partner who will be okay with the type of friendships that you have. Like, before I get off of here, believe it or not, let's talk about this. Some people have friendships where they are also having benefit of emotional attachments and physical attachments, right? And they expect their partner to be okay with that. But not all partners are okay with that. So for the people who aren't okay with that, you have to say, like, before y'all even get serious, okay, well, if you can't be okay with that, you've got to go. For the people who are okay with that, that's amazing. But if you are already in a relationship with somebody and that's not how y'all started, don't expect that person to bend on their rules, to bend on their boundaries, simply because now you want a friend with benefits or you want a friend that you can look upon lustfully and all these things. Like, don't do that. Talk to the person and give them their chance to walk away from you, okay? If you can't agree on the certain types of friends y'all have in your life, if y'all can't have healthy friendships with people of the opposite sex, then you might need to consider not being together. I hate divorce, I hate breakups, but we need to keep our relationships like peaceful, like as peaceful as possible, given all the rest of the bullshit we carry in our everyday lives, like our attitudes, how we sleep, how we keep our places clean, like how long we're away for work. We need to consider things, you know. Last thing we want to do is mess up something over a dispensable person. Friendships come and go. We don't want to mess up something with our life partner, somebody who we're trying to take it there with for the rest of our lives, over somebody who's so temporary. So to answer the question, very simply, yes, it is okay to have friends of the opposite sex. To answer the question a little bit more complex, No, it's not okay when the friendship is not genuine and our partner does not agree with the terms or nature of the relationship, aka friendship, that we're having with the other person. Y'all, this is it for tonight. This is Winnie. This is Winnie's Wednesday. Oh my gosh, y'all don't know what this is. This is so sad. I hope y'all learned something. Go ahead, if you have anything to say about this topic, drop it in any of the comments, anywhere that you're seeing this video. If you have questions that you want me to answer, feel free to message me, ask it on a comment. Yeah, however you want to do it. Hey y'all, as I always say, God is good, life is good, and we're amazingly blessed. I love y'all.